Level 4. Breakthrough IQ 125 to 135, and you enter gifted territory, where roughly 4 to 5% of humanity exists. This is where intelligence stops being a practical advantage and becomes a defining characteristic that separates you from nearly everyone. School is no longer remotely challenging. The standard curriculum feels insultingly simple. You taught yourself calculus from library books while classmates struggled with fractions. Because giftedness isn't about learning faster, it's about thinking in dimensions others don't access. Your brain doesn't just work quickly, it works fundamentally differently. You see entire systems where others see isolated components. Someone explains a concept once and you've already extrapolated 5 applications they haven't mentioned. You think in networks, in webs of interconnected meaning. Your mind constructs 3-dimensional models while others work in 2 dimensions. The isolation becomes severe. Normal conversation can feel torturous. Small talk makes you want to scream. You crave substantive exchanges about philosophy, science, psychology, about ideas that actually matter. But finding people who can engage at that level is statistically rare. So you learn silence. You learn to hide. You learn to pretend you're less than you are. Professionally, giftedness is a double-edged weapon. You're capable of extraordinary achievement, groundbreaking innovation, revolutionary thinking, but you're also more prone to existential boredom, perfectionism, and frustration with systems designed for average minds that move at glacial pace. Corporate hierarchies feel suffocating. You see 10 steps ahead but must wait for approvals at every stage. The emotional landscape intensifies dramatically. Giftedness often correlates with heightened sensitivity. You feel things more deeply than others. Injustice haunts you for days. Beauty moves you to tears. Music penetrates your soul. You experience life in overwhelming, vivid color while others seem to live in grayscale. This is called overexcitability, and it's both a gift and a curse. This emotional intensity creates what many describe as profound loneliness. You're surrounded by people yet feel completely alone because nobody quite understands how your mind works, how intensely you experience everything. You exist in a permanent state of translation, converting your thoughts into simpler forms. Relationships become incredibly difficult. You need someone who matches your intellectual depth, emotional intensity, and constant need for mental stimulation. That combination is extraordinarily rare. Most relationships feel like you're translating yourself into a simpler language. You're always editing, always simplifying, always hiding parts of yourself. One strange experience is imposter syndrome. Despite obvious evidence of your abilities, you constantly doubt yourself. Why? Because you're smart enough to see how much you don't know. The more you learn, the more you realize the infinite expanse of your ignorance. Average people have confident opinions. You have uncertain hypotheses. The existential weight is beautiful and terrible simultaneously. You see patterns that feel almost mystical, connections that seem to reveal fundamental truths about reality. But you can't turn it off. Can't stop your brain from analyzing everything. Can't dumb yourself down even when you desperately want to fit in. Your mind is both your greatest asset and your heaviest burden. And here's what keeps you awake at night. Even at this level, you're not at the peak. There's still another tier. So rare where intelligence becomes almost incomprehensible to everyone else. Where genius isn't just a word, it's a prison. Level 5. Above IQ 135, you cross into genius-level intelligence, where roughly 0.5% to 1% of humanity exists. This is the extreme. The place where intelligence separates you so profoundly that you might as well be a different species. Your working memory, processing speed, and pattern recognition operate at incomprehensible levels. Studies show people at this level can hold 7 to 9 pieces of information simultaneously, while average intelligence manages 4 to 5. You think in metastructures, seeing patterns within patterns within patterns? Your mind operates at a processing speed that would exhaust average brains in minutes. School is utterly meaningless. Many at this level taught themselves to read before kindergarten. By middle school, you were consuming graduate-level material for entertainment. By high school, you were already thinking at a level most people never reach in their entire lives. Traditional education becomes an obstacle rather than an opportunity. The defining characteristic is creative synthesis. You don't just solve problems that exist, you identify problems nobody else sees. You invent new frameworks, develop original theories, create entirely new ways of thinking. This is the level of Einstein, von Neumann, Marie Curie minds that literally advanced human knowledge. You don't just think outside the box, you redesign the box entirely. But genius comes with catastrophic costs. The loneliness is existential and unending. There's nobody to talk to, nobody who understands. Every conversation requires translating your thoughts into drastically simpler forms, and in that translation, the actual beauty, the actual depth, the actual meaning vanishes completely. You live in permanent intellectual solitary confinement. Emotionally, genius correlates with severe mental health struggles. Research shows significantly elevated rates of depression, anxiety, and existential despair. Your brain never stops analyzing, never quiets down, never gives you peace. You're aware of too much. You see too clearly. You understand too deeply. The weight of consciousness becomes crushing. Career paths are extraordinarily narrow. You need work that actually challenges you. Cutting-edge research, advanced theoretical work, or creating entirely new fields. But even there, you're functionally alone. Your colleagues can't keep up. Your supervisors can't evaluate your work properly. You're forced to dumb down groundbreaking insights so others can understand enough to approve funding. Relationships are often nearly impossible. The intellectual gap between genius and average intelligence is wider than the gap between average intelligence and intellectual disability. Finding someone who can truly understand you, who can match your depth, requires finding another person at your level. and the statistical odds are astronomically low. Most geniuses either remain alone or settle for relationships where they're never truly known. Society has a deeply ambivalent relationship with genius. We celebrate it in theory while resenting it in practice. History overflows with geniuses who were mocked, dismissed, or destroyed by their contemporaries. Van Gogh died poor and unknown. Tesla died alone and broke. Turing was chemically castrated. Society loves dead geniuses but fears living ones. The tragedy is that genius offers glimpses of truth others can't see, but doesn't give you power to make anyone listen. You can see decades into the future, predict consequences with eerie accuracy, and watch humanity stumble toward preventable disasters while your warnings fall on deaf ears. Nobody believes you until it's too late. By then, you've stopped trying to warn them. And perhaps the cruelest irony? Even at this level, there are absolute limits. Problems you can't solve. Questions about consciousness, the nature of reality, the deepest mysteries of existence mock even genius-level intelligence. Because all human intelligence, no matter how extraordinary, still operates within the constraints of human neurobiology. Even genius has a ceiling. So where does this leave us? From borderline functioning to genius, intelligence shapes everything about human experience. How you think, how you feel, how you connect, how you suffer, how you find meaning. The uncomfortable truth is that higher intelligence doesn't guarantee happiness, success, or fulfillment. It guarantees complexity, isolation, and the weight of seeing more than you can change. And maybe that's the final lesson. Intelligence isn't a ladder where higher is simply better. It's a spectrum of different experiences, each with unique capabilities and unique suffering. The question isn't which level you'd choose. The question is what you do with the intelligence you have. Because at every level, from the lowest to the highest, humans find ways to create, to love, to contribute, to matter. Your IQ might determine how you see the world, but it never determines whether your life has meaning. That part is always, beautifully and terrifyingly, up to you.